Welcome everyone back to Spoiler Warning. While Kyrie Sane is returning during tonight's Raw, that is not where our main focus is going to be, though it will be one of our headlines. We'll be talking primarily about Cody Rhodes, John Cena, The Rock, and the mess that the WWE is planning to throw at their former WWE Undisputed Champion. So buckle up, because we're going to get straight into the messy Cody business before we get to anything else. We start by talking about when Cody will be returning, and to be clear, it's very, very soon. The WWE are believed to have lined up Cody within the next few weeks to make his return in the hope that he can make an appearance during the Money in the Bank show. There are multiple pitches at the moment that involve John Cena and Cody Rhodes crossing paths once again around the time of Money in the Bank, but there's plenty more that the WWE are still putting together. So it's not necessarily guaranteed that it will be a one-on-one match. Particularly with a view towards John Cena not having too many dates left, they are looking to expand their options and their choices with some tag matches. I've discussed previously the involvement of Travis Scott, who's been training to wrestle under Booker T. The belief is that Travis Scott will be used as a spoiler to keep Cody and John Cena away from a singles match for a little longer, though this does suggest that SummerSlam will feature once again a Cody Rhodes versus John Cena match. Cody Rhodes expected back within the next couple of weeks, and he will be very much in the orbit of John Cena once again. As regards The Rock, at the moment, to my knowledge, there are no plans for him to be directly involved with WWE programming, at least until long after Cody Rhodes returns. The focus right now, and The Rock is the one pushing to make this happen, is on John Cena and Cody Rhodes, and the WWE are being very careful to avoid teasing the audience with a possibility of an arrival that is not going to happen. Cody Rhodes expected back in the next couple of weeks. Travis Scott expected to be a spoiler working against him. Welcome everyone, that is our top story. We will of course be reiterating that over the show, but we've got plenty more for you today. Leave a like and we'll see what of these headlines interests you. We're talking the Cody Rhodes return plans, The Rock's involvement in the storyline. We're talking CM Punk versus John Cena, and why we're getting an R-Truth match at Saturday Night Main Event. We're going to talk Randy Orton feuds. We're going to talk Sheamus' new position in the WWE. We're going to talk about changes that WWE have made to the draft and how they're still having a draft even without calling it that. We're going to talk Giulia moving to Smackdown, might have buried the lead a little bit there, and the return of Kyrie Sane tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about an incident that took place during a signing/meet and greet for Paige, now known as Saraya. And we're also going to talk about the current betting favourites for Saturday Night Main Event before we get to my predictions for tonight, including the Money in the Bank qualifiers. If you have questions, drop them in the chat. This is, as always, an Ask Me Anything stream, and I will endeavour to answer as many as I can. We already have 76 people here, 20 likes on the YouTube side. Let's keep that going. And on the TikTok, just starting, we've got 5 people there and already 360 likes. And Ed has dropped a heart. As always, I'll be making this goal available in just a moment, but whenever there is a donation or a gift of any sort, we do a squat now. So, squat. Just a little way to say thank you. So we'll get that goal live as we get started, and we'll go through the questions in the chat before we then get to our next piece of news, even though what I will say is that a lot of these do link to the first piece of news that I just gave. So quite a bit of this is still in and around the world of Cody, Cena, and of course, The Rock. Darius, thank you kindly for sending a rose as well on TikTok. Every donation helps the growth of the channel, and every donation also really helps my knees, which desperately need it. Thank you, Darius. Oh, lots of chat rate in the chat on YouTube. Thank you kindly, everyone doing that. Everton says WWE just announced that Kyrie Sane is set to return. Kyrie Sane is back. Also said per Post Wrestling, WWE shattered records by grossing over $13 million just across 6 events during their European tour this March. They're not dropping the ticket prices anytime soon. And no, they are absolutely not. There's a reason they've changed their branding, as it were, to celebrate the highest grossing gate. They don't celebrate attendance anymore. They celebrate blatantly, we're making money. Bailey says, don't forget the like. Please don't forget that. And then we have plenty of people saying hi. Hello, Declan. Hello, Leon. Hello, Michael. I believe I said live during Friday's show that I'm surprised you weren't there when I was talking Mercedes. I'm glad you reached out. Dylan says hi, everyone. Hello, Dylan. Sean says hello, Tom. Eric is excited for Kyrie's return tonight. Calvin says hey, Tom. Ed says hey, Tom, and leaves 2 pluses for some reason. Interesting. Daniel Berry says hey, everyone. Happy Monday. We have a few people over on the TikTok as well saying hello. Everton now across here and saying very happy to be alive on a Monday and watching Spoiler Warning. Is excited for the second edition of Cody versus Cena. Dylan says, now if only we can get him to stop coming back for good. Dylan also says, how long do you see Cena having the title? Until he retires. I think he loses the championship on his very last match, and I do think it will be next year's WrestleMania. Hello, Noob. Good to see you. Roy says, what did you think of Natalya slapping a fan in NWA? Honestly, mate, haven't seen it. Haven't really had the chance to see much of NWA or what Natalya's been up to. So that's an interesting one, and certainly I'll have to look it up now. Sean says, how's your Monday going, Tom? Going well so far. Work wasn't bad. I do have a full-time day job, for those not aware. Can't really afford this to be a full-time job on the income that it makes, so it's one of the reasons I don't really push for anything like that, though of course I'll still do my squats. But yeah, full-time job I genuinely enjoy, and yeah, family time. That says, big up Tom, will Seth have a qualifying match? Who do you think wins Hangman versus Ospreay on Sunday? I think Ospreay, because you've seen Hangman in the championship picture for a while, so I'd go more towards Ospreay now myself. As regards Seth, I don't suspect he'll have a qualifying match. I don't think he'll be in Money in the Bank, though I do think he might try and get Bron Breakker one. Q43, welcome mate, good to see ya. Calvin says, can you do over 100 squats? My uncle just moved up to doing 200. Some days, yes, and today definitely feels like a day. Other days, no. But what I will say is that if I get that level of donation, I will definitely do every single one. Anthony says, I like Rhea Ripley to win tonight. Interesting. That's not necessarily where my pick has gone. Michael says, had a late day at the office. Of course, the one day you have some news on her. It's a rarity nowadays, yeah. Everton, I'm the one reporting on Cena's extension, and I've not reporting it confirmed because all I know is that they're trying to convince him. Declan says, I'm not looking forward to another Becky versus Bayley feud. Calvin says, why do I feel like Kyrie is going to turn on Io tonight? More to come. Daz says, liked and shared. Thank you, Daz. Appreciate you. Dylan, Cena did say he was fully retiring at the end of the year, and as I say, WWE are trying to convince him otherwise. Welcome. Irish says, my guy Tom, and he's watching the pig. Declan saying Cherry Coke. Not today. Today, Orange Fanta. One says, hey Tom, last Friday you reported that AEW might not be able to re-sign Mercedes, even though Nick Khan still says no to the money name. Can this hesitate TK from featuring her more? It could. That's entirely up to him and how he would react to it. Ken says, hey Tom, hope you're doing well. Doing well, Ken. Welcome. Fiend says, who will John Cena's WrestleMania 42 opponent be? Not confirmed. Or guaranteed. Blue says, hi Tom, completely agree on Cena taking it to next Mania. Fought it the moment he won it. Sean says, your thoughts on Giulia moving to Smackdown? Do you see her winning a qualifying match? More on this to come. I do have some news as regards this swap. Dylan is mentioning the cutoff in the last 30 minutes of AEW Collision. Yeah, not a great look for anyone involved. Everton's predictions are Rhea and Natalya to win and qualify. There are 2 Money in the Bank qualifying matches happening on the women's side today. Let me know your predictions of who's going to win them and join Alexa Bliss in that match. Rhea says, when is Sheamus winning the Intercontinental Championship? Well, he did try to get into the Intercontinental Championship match at WrestleMania. The WWE seem to not want him anywhere near it at the moment. We'll have more news on that story shortly. Bad says, did you see when what Alexa said to Charlotte in the last segment? That same thing Alexa said to Bayley in Moment of Bliss. What can I say? She's got some catchphrases. Calvin says, Giulia will win for sure on Friday. I'll be shocked if she didn't. And Jon predicts Becky and Kyrie to pick up the win. Declan is manifesting Becky winning the briefcase, so plenty of predictions incoming. Oh, thank you, Everton. That's very helpful. Says, advertised for Raw tonight, Penta and AJ Styles versus Finn Balor and JD. Jey Uso versus Bron Breakker. The Money in the Bank qualifying matches. Sheamus versus Grayson Waller. and a Logan Paul appearance. Sean is predicting Kyrie and Roxanne to win. Let's move on to our next piece of news, which is still in and around the use of The Rock and Travis Scott. And there is a reason that we're hearing about Travis Scott involvement and Travis Scott tag team matches incoming. I've been reporting it for a couple of months. It's now becoming public knowledge and reported elsewhere, which tells me that now they actually want it to get out. I can confirm that the reason that Travis Scott is potentially being pushed in the WWE is because that's what The Rock is telling Triple H to do. Travis Scott's involvement in the WrestleMania main event was essentially to replace The Rock. In addition to that, we are going to see more of Travis Scott. He's trying to make himself more available to the WWE, and The Rock is trying to get him involved in wrestling matches in WCW style. So The Rock is telling WWE to work with and feature more heavily Travis Scott. I can also state as regards John Cena and CM Punk, while they're currently on different brands with a brand split and a brand draft still very much incoming, the WWE are still intending a full-term CM Punk versus John Cena feud. It will not be happening until the later half of the year. CM Punk is the one likely to move over to Smackdown, with potential for CM Punk himself to feud with Travis Scott alongside another celebrity name. Names mentioned, we've seen Bad Bunny's name come out, but there is also a possibility of seeing Pat McAfee in that particular role. So CM Punk versus John Cena, still the plan, but it would be later in the year. Aaron says, I feel like you're the only one who cares about the Wyatt Six and gives reliable news. I take that as a compliment. I try my best. I do care about the Wyatt Six. I want them to succeed. I unfortunately am struggling to come up with a way in which they would, given what they're up against right now. On the YouTube side, we have 91 viewers, but only the 29 likes. That means less than a third of you have hit that like. If you can, please check whether you've hit that thumbs up. And if you haven't, make sure to do so. It does help the growth of the channel, and it helps people who've already watched find out that the show's on live right now if they want to check it out. We do see a huge rise in viewership with every bunch of likes and every boost to the chat rate. So please do help the growth of the channel however you may. Ooh. Sean says Jey versus Braun has been confirmed as the main event. Doesn't surprise me, they're doing good work with Jey Uso at the moment to make him feel like a big deal. Dylan says, I think we all know Charlotte Hogan is winning the Money in the Bank. There has been no suggestion as of yet that she's even involved in it. Marcel has Rhea and Roxanne. Backward says, do the WWE not know who's dethroning Cena? Seems like booking is similar to the old Vince booking. At this point in time, there is a minimum of 7 months to make a decision. I personally still love the idea, absolutely love the idea, that the WWE will make the decision based on whether or not John Cena signs for a little longer. Personally, I still think Aleister Black would be a great person for that dethroning. Blue says, so close to 10k subs. Yeah, we really are. 9.9k. We are losing a few people from the shorts. So a lot of people did find this channel due to shorts, and they, because I'm not really doing them at the moment, I'm doing them on TikTok instead, are moving on. So it's a bit up, a bit down at this moment, but overall the numbers are still looking good. Anthony, where have you got that idea from? Mariah May has definitely not said that. Declan, calm yourself down. People can have their opinions. Dylan says, who do you see taking the title off of Jey, and when do you see it happening? I think it'll be a while, and I don't think there's necessarily an obvious choice outside of Seth Rollins, who seems like he's probably ideal for it. Cool. I've had some issues with the Discord links in the chat. If anyone on the mod side is available to help out, I'd appreciate it. Fiend says, are WWE going to bring in trade? Seems like a good way to move people across brands. Not at this point. They've used that historically for a while and repeatedly, and it does not work. Does not work. Ooh, busy guys tonight. Appreciate it. Sean says, do you know what's happened to Candice LeRae? Yes, she's not being booked at the moment. Fiend says, can you give an explanation as to why WWE changed Jeff Cobb's name? To give him a fresh start, essentially. They just wanted to own the name and he wasn't willing to sell his. Tony says, did you ever think that before that one day Chelsea Green would get a better reaction than Alexa Bliss? Certainly I believe there was talent there. I wouldn't go that far though. King Azza says, do you think Cody will have more of an aggressive side when he returns? Yeah, I think that guy's going to be out for revenge. Aaron says, how do you get your info from WWE and how do you know what to ask? First, it's about who to ask. I've met a number of wrestlers primarily from the world of, from the indies. And people who've worked on the indies from WWE previously. Made connections that way. Made further connections because of my reliability. And had people reach out to speak to me since. A lot of people have reached out over the years. And there's been some who've reached out with clear bad info. Some that have reached out with verifiable but still actually bad info. So it's difficult to be in this frame of work, but I do my best with it. I appreciate the compliments of it. Everton says this Saturday night main event, the final match between Drew and Priest. It would only be the second. I'd imagine there'll be a third. Everton says it's crazy how there's no women's matches on Saturday night main event. Maybe there's an evolution coming. Oh, Marcel going crazy on both sides. Erin says, I think Shayna will take the pin. Shayna Baszler? She's not in WWE anymore. Backwards says, I noticed in the background your office looking really good and coming together. Bit by bit, Backwards. Bit by bit, it's definitely coming together. There's still quite a bit of work to do. But overall, I'm very happy with how things have developed. I can't really afford right now the big next step that I need to make. So it'll be a few months before it really jumps forwards again. I'm nearly at the point of having been here a year. And yeah, it's a lot of work that needs doing. And whenever we run out of money for the family, I have to sort of abandon this room. So yeah, that's the job. Aaron says, that's awesome that you report it, whether you're being trolled or it's truth. Either way, at least it's news. Oh, I don't. If I'm being trolled, I don't report it. I report accurate news and I verify accurate news. If I can show that I'm being trolled or tricked, I'm not going to do it. Don't get me wrong, I've been wrong in the past. That happens to us all. But all I can say is I would never knowingly report anything incorrect. Not my game. Fiend says, Aleister Black making John Cena fade to black is a good move. I agree. And very much want it to happen. Dominic says, hi Tom, is there a chance for Nakamura and Stephanie Vaca will get called to the main roster? Are you going to cover Saturday night's main event? Thank you. I will cover it to a degree. We will not be live during it. As regards a chance for Nakamura, he did make an appearance in a backstage vignette, though I would say it seems like something that might have been recorded 5-6 months ago and forgotten about. As regards Stephanie Vaca, yes, she's on the way to the main roster. Rocky says, I feel like Alexa needs to become heel again with Charlotte or against Charlotte. What are your thoughts? I think she's a great face right now. I think certainly she could have a little storyline with her long-term friend Charlotte Flair. As I mentioned, they are genuinely friends backstage. And in addition to that, once she does join Wyatt 6, I would say that could get her out of any potential heel turn, so they need to keep her hot. They need to keep her hot. Good evening, Cecil. Good evening, Metal Mama. Good evening, Alexa Bliss Gamer. A lot of people showing their love so far. Welcome. No, Sid, I haven't played the new 2K25 DLC. I haven't even played the old DLC or, in fact, the game. Thank you very much for the chat rate, everyone. Keeping those numbers boosted. Metal Mama says... Oh, I've skipped past it ever so slightly. Metal Mama says, Natty and Becky, love them both, but happy with Becky winning if she does. Billy says, Saturday night main event will be epic. The most decorated champion of all time versus Cena will be awesome. Cecil says, good evening, Tom Colohue. Thank you for the wrestling receipt. Appreciate you for that, Cecil. What did you all think of the wrestling receipt this week? It went live yesterday, covered the break between WrestleMania and Backlash. So there's a lot there worth sharing and a lot there that people seem to think was real that definitely wasn't. Metal Mama says, we got a lot of WWE Saturday night main event and Money in the Bank. Let's effing go. Declan says Becky is the new Women's World Championship. Sounds better. I couldn't wear her myself. Calvin says, did you notice that everything LA Knight does is similar to Rock? I mean, it's a blueprint for success. It worked for one. Why not copy it? Drive By says, do you see Roman and Cena having a title match this year? Yes, personally I do. Daz, thank you for renewing your membership for a third month as channel supporter. Always glad to see you, mate. Yeah, Aaron, I was a little confused, but I do agree. Marcel says, Aleister Black versus Cena. Sounds fun. Hope it's happening. Anthony, you haven't answered yet as to who told you that Mariah May no longer wants to be in AEW. Where's that come from? Because it's garbage. That says, when can you see Roman coming back in the build to SummerSlam? Backward says, you become a jack of all trades when you renovate your home. Been there before. Yeah, I never thought I'd be a guy who does electrics. But I did. And I did not explode, which was a pleasant surprise. Aaron says, if you notice, Vince Russo's creating his own demise, gets his own for making a show to trash WWE. Does that... Well, I mean, he's got a number of shows. His own show on the Sports Keeda show. Cecil, unfortunately, while I'm not going to say no, I can't say yes. I cannot say yes. That said, Metal Mama's feeling it, and I mean, they've got stuff recorded. Rohit says, I've seen people were chanting Chelsea Green's name in a heel character against a babyface Alexa. That is shameful. Yes and no. Chelsea Green's very entertaining, and I can't blame people for enjoying it. You don't need to apologise, Cecil. Don't be that guy. You don't need to do that. King Adder says, I see Cody dethroning Cena, and I see Solo winning Money in the Bank and cashing in on Jay. Sean says, Tom, do you think Becky needed to turn heel? No. But everyone else needed her to. Everyone else needed her to. Thank you, Ashley. I appreciate that. Calvin says, doing promos and vignettes like Shinsuke and Karrion is also a good way for a superstar to get over. I really hope superstars like Natalya and Theory start speaking up more. Natalya speaks up all the time. Unfortunately, not many people listen. Christopher Harris says, anything new with Charlotte and Alexa? Not at this point. While there is a lot on Friday's show that you might enjoy, Christopher, there is nothing on today's to add to it. Aaron says the Nakamura vignette was for a Money in the Bank match next week. Aleister Black versus LA Knight versus Shinsuke Nakamura. And of all those choices, I've got to say, Shinsuke is the least likely for me. Metal Mama says, wish Karrion would be on TV. Deserves it. Scarlett too. Yeah, Dylan, I'm asking where you heard it from. Welcome, Perish. That's a phrase I'm not going to read out, but welcome. Sid says, do you think any NXT wrestlers win TNA titles and TNA wrestlers win NXT titles? No, but I'm sure it will happen at some point. And Ken says, I prefer heel Becky. I feel she does the best work as a heel. I think everyone else benefits massively from her being a heel, and that's why she chose to do it. I mean, you got me there, mate. You got me. PWInsider. Right, so they didn't report that. I can state categorically they did not report that. Sean says, with Kyrie back, do you think we get an Asuka return soon? There is no correlation. Yes. Mr. Stumble says, what's more of a dysfunctional relationship? The fans with John or Dom with his dad? The fans love John Cena while he beats us into submission. And Dom loves his dad while he beats him into submission. Oh, I like it. Metal Mama says, Mom Man. Of course, very much fits your aesthetic as well, Metal Mama. Next up. R-Truth. And as we go into our next piece of news, 106 people watching on YouTube, 47 likes. 3 more thumbs ups gets us to 50, a nice round number. We're at 600 already on the TikTok side, so we do continue to grow. R-Truth gets his match at Saturday Night Main Event against John Cena, but this is not something that the WWE actually wanted to do. This is something that John Cena has requested in a one-on-one basis. He wants to get the opportunity to do a big favour for a long-time friend. This will likely be the final main event of R-Truth's career, and personally, I suspect after this, R-Truth will likely start winding down. John Cena pushed for this match. The WWE didn't necessarily want it, but John Cena has got his way. That's why it's on a Saturday Night Main Event, because the plan for the big shows is being set by WWE and not by John Cena. There is also at current a creative push and a push from both Randy Orton and Nick Aldis for a Randy Orton versus Nick Aldis feud going into SummerSlam. You may notice, conspicuous by his absence, there wasn't a lot of Randy Orton on SmackDown this week. He's taking a little time off because of his limited dates and will be returning in time to really kickstart the Randy Orton versus Nick Aldis feud. He'll be getting his heat back properly very shortly, and Nick Aldis is going to have some questions to answer. Oh. Still plenty more news to come. Don't you be going anywhere. Aaron says, why is Cross being used on main event? This never really pays off. He just wants to wrestle. Everton says, good on Cena wanting to face his hero. R-Truth should be in the Hall of Fame. I suspect he will be. Eric says, any predictions for the Money in the Bank qualifying tonight? Yes, I do have predictions for that. It'll be at the end of the show. Declan says, I still miss the Money in the Bank match on WrestleMania instead of a separate PLE. Bailey says, any match prediction for R-Truth versus his childhood hero? I will be sharing my predictions shortly. Metal Mama says, I just got my John Cena exclusive Funko after waiting since January when he was back, and R-Truth is wearing the same thing. The Funko, kind of odd, both wearing the same thing. Parrish is celebrating an R-Truth retirement tour. Aaron, I've not heard anything on Righteous. There are times when I just don't hear anything. The Motor City Machine Guns, for example, I had nothing the entire time. People kept asking me to confirm, and I couldn't. I had absolutely no information. Anthony, then PWInsider is not your source if you're saying Mariah May herself said that she doesn't want to stay in AEW. Certainly never seen her say that. Dylan says, I thought Jay Logan was main eventing. Last I heard it was going to be Cena. Q says, I was a little confused on Rey Fenix losing his qualifier. I thought that would be a recipe for greatness. Same. Really, very much same. Mr. Stumble says, is R-Truth the favourite on the match considering as a 54-time champion versus a 17-time champion? No. Ken says, has it ever been confirmed why Aldis hasn't wrestled yet? Was he injured and that's why they've never booked him to wrestle? Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. He would have wrestled by now, even though he was originally brought in not to be a wrestler. He's been pushing WWE to allow him to wrestle for a long time. That simply did not come around. And instead, a number of injuries have compounded and left him unavailable. He is now cleared and recovered, but we'll see if he can keep that going. Calvin says, Truth originally debuted as K-Quick in 2000, and he was getting rowdy. He was in TNA from 2002 to 2008, and has now been back in WWE since. He's had a legendary career. Okay, Middle Mama, no need to apologise. I do try and take my time and work out what's going on, but I don't always have the time to do so. Everton says AJ Styles versus Penta is needed and kind of on the way. Marcel says, I hope little Jimmy returns and helps R-Truth. Nostalgically Awkward, great name. I don't have anything at this point in time on the Wyatt 6 and I'm not willing to guess. So it says, was there a wrestler called K Crush in TNA? I believe there's a K Quick and a Crush. I'm not entirely sure. Haven't really watched TNA. Eric says, who inducts R-Truth when he goes into the Hall of Fame? His hero, clearly. Maybe Road Dogg. King Azza says, I think R-Truth will be the reason why Cena will turn babyface. We'll see. Depends on the level of beating that R-Truth has to take next weekend. Aaron says, any plans for Sheamus to enter the title picture again? No, and in fact, I've got some news on this one up now. Sheamus has been given a new position in WWE, and unfortunately, it's a position that does not necessarily come with a push or with championships. WWE are trying to push Sheamus largely using his Celtic Warrior Workout YouTube channel and to use him as more of a father figure to a lot of the new and incoming WWE talents. Sheamus is not being considered for anything World Championship related, and while the WWE still want him to at least win briefly an Intercontinental Championship, now is not considered to be the time. The focus on Sheamus, the Sheamus heyday, is believed to be at this point in the rear view mirror, and while he does still deliver banger after banger, the WWE are now of the opinion that Sheamus needs the right opponent in order to deliver. He's popular, he's over, they will be using him to get over the next generation. So do not expect any world championships in Sheamus's near future. Mr. Stumble, I would not personally have anyone's cause of death. That's not something I'm going to ask for either. Roy says, who would you like to see in WWE from TNA? It's always Rosemary. Always. Never changes. Perry suggests The Miz to induct R-Truth, which is also a good shout. Oh, yeah. Sorry, I forgot it was Monday. Yeah, thanks, Dylan. I forgot it was Monday. I thought it was Friday. I got lost. This Saturday. Sean says, Indy Hartwell had a TNA debut recently. Debuted a new finisher, a full Nelson facebuster called Hurts, don't it? Barry says, do you think Sheamus' in-ring role resembles Regal's latest in-ring role? Yes, I would say so. It is a generational thing. Certain wrestlers just reach a point where they still want to be around, but they're interested in putting over the next generation. Becky Lynch has kind of got there herself as well. Sean says, we probably won't get a Sheamus John Cena? No. Marcel says, do you see Cena versus AJ in this run? Not as much. Oh, Matter. Fair question. That's not what I'm doing, even though it definitely looks like it. What I do is I rip up small pieces of paper into smaller pieces of paper. It's part of my OCD. I don't know if I've spoken about my OCD while you've been here, Matter. But yeah, I suffer from obsessive compulsive disorder. And there are many ways in which I have to sort of quiet my brain. So I literally just get the piece of paper, fold it, rip it, and then pile it in less than haphazard fashion in a little pile like this. And I do this almost all day, every day. I literally all day, every day. Just to try and keep my brain occupied and keep the, obsessive compulsive side very much at bay. So yeah, I can very much understand why you think that's what I'm doing, but I assure you that is not what I'm doing. Ken says, if Sheamus can get the younger gen over, I'm not mad about that. I'm always of the opinion that the vets should always put over younger wrestlers if they are able to. Blaine, unfortunately not as regards Wyatt 6. There is nothing I have to share today about that. Calvin says, is it possible they're building towards a feud between Sheamus and Rusev? Would look forward to it. Certainly possible, and a good way to reintroduce Rusev after the League of Nations. Noob says, after the Natty match against Kenzie Page at the Crockett Cup, who from the NWA will be under the WWE radar? WWE aren't particularly interested in anyone from NWA. Mr. Stumble. Eric says, I thought I saw something about WWE cancelling plans for Y6. I can't remember where I saw it today. Pardon me. Eric, can you find it? Because probably not true. I get you, Matter. It's not for me personally, but I certainly don't judge. Sean says, do you see Sheamus losing to Grayson Waller on Raw tonight? I am predicting a loss, yes. Probably for Grayson Waller. Nostalgically Awkward says, did you see the fan that brought a deodorant stick to be signed by McIntyre? Some people just really embrace it, and I gotta love it. Marcel says, I have OCD too. I feel you. I appreciate that, Marcel. It's just, I understand that it probably makes quite a lot of really annoying noise, and it just sort of is in the background, and if that's a problem, please do let me know. But yeah, I struggle to not do it. I did perish. On the Wired 6 in particular, there's nothing today. But yeah, some people join a bit later. Dylan says, I think it's safe to say the Wired 6 are done for. I don't think it's safe to say that at all. Sid says, what is your favourite match of 2025? Mine is TNA. Mine's not TNA, I'll tell you that. I couldn't necessarily say right now, though. It's very on the spot. I think there were some very good matches at Mania this year. Very enjoyable ones. Aaron says, I feel like a lot of older wrestlers end up not getting their pushes and mostly pushing others. It's a career choice where you give back. There's a reason that The Undertaker wanted to go out on his back, and then he didn't anymore. No, Billy, my notes are actually on a notepad file on screen. So my notes are there, my paper's there. It's a good idea. And yeah, I suppose if I'm reading stuff out, that is probably the more obvious choice. But yeah. Mr. Stumble, right now Charlotte is a heel. They're seeing if they can make any changes on it. Tessa, how can something be clickbait if you haven't clicked to find it? Hi, Troll. Bye, Troll. Everton says Tommaso Ciampa, aka Triple H, to induct R-Truth. Oh, good stuff. Next up. The WWE draft has lost its momentum. The intention with the draft for the last few years has been to really focus in on taking advantage of the NFL draft, essentially making sure that it happens around the same time so that you get a lot of search engine traffic to the WWE draft just by using the word draft. Wasn't the most successful last year, so they're looking at a few other options. The WWE still wanted to do a draft, but things haven't quite worked out because of the nature of their schedule. So the WWE currently making some tweaks to see what they can make of it while creating context for a future full draft. By this I mean people are being called up, people are swapping sides. We are hearing conversations about Sami Zayn going to Smackdown, for example, etc., to create a context whereby the draft becomes an absolute necessity and becomes unavoidable. The WWE do continue to build towards that, but they haven't as of yet been able to find the right time to build towards and publicize a draft properly. Andrew on the TikTok side with a rose. Thank you very kindly, Andrew. As always, once again, every donation, every pound, every dollar is a squat. Only 3 so far. You're the slacky. My knees are going to be fine after this. Seriously though, as always, thank you very kindly for any and all donations that people have and continue to make. I very much appreciate them. Thank you, Andrew. A lot of high troll, by troll, which I always enjoy. Dylan says Sammy versus Kevin at Elimination Chamber is at the moment my favourite match. Sean says I wasn't a fan of the LFG finale last night. I found the winners predictable. Calvin says it really annoys me when Theory is booked to lose to someone while Waller is booked to beat that same person. Do they really not want to push Theory? Mr. Stumble says, what's your favourite draft moment? I've missed most of them, to be honest. There's a lot I've missed. I didn't really watch until 2014. Kevin says, what's the reason WWE don't want to use the White Six on TV? Backstage heat or nope, creative. Purely creative issues. Declan says, Becky has put a bunch of new wrestlers for the last 6 years. She's my hero. I'd imagine I was supposed to say put over. Ooh, interesting. Tessa the Troll says, where's the proof? Well, you see, what we do on this show is we tell you things that are going to happen or are happening before they become public knowledge. The proof happens afterwards. If you'd like to see proof, you can look through a several hundred video spoiler warning playlist and you can see my accuracy historically. That should answer your question. John says, have you thought about wearing knee braces? Not as of yet. The main reason I'm trying to do squats is to try and keep them going longer than they should. Dan, welcome back, sir. Been a little while. Hope you're good. Sting, of course, is the exception. Wasn't his decision to win. AEW, quite rightly, in my opinion, used him in a different way that did help people and also gave fans the feel-good moments audiences wanted. Having been at Wembley for, I believe, the casket match, I do agree with what you're saying. A good storyline is a good storyline, and there isn't a need to go out on your back as there has been historically. Now, while there isn't as much of a need as there was historically, that doesn't necessarily mean that old-fashioned mentality is going anywhere. AJ Styles, for example, is quite old-fashioned in his way. So what I would expect to see going forwards is AJ Styles going out on his back. That's very much his style. Ooh, Tessa has completely ignored what I just said, making a lot of story about no evidence to show or proof once again. Several 100-hour-long playlist of my reports, which you can fact check right now. Right now. Or you can ask any of the other people who are here right now and see if they can remember anything that I've reported. McCade, thank you. Andrew says, you're a legend as always, Tom. Thanks for the accurate news. Appreciate you, Andrew. McCade, has dropped a heart and says, hi Tom, any news on the draft? Sorry if I've missed it. You have actually. If you're on the YouTube side, go back about 5 minutes and there's news there. But WWE have essentially lost faith in the draft. They're not getting the SEO boost they were looking for. I do a squat every time there's a donation now. I do apologise if it's disturbing you. But they're still trying to do sort of a draft light of moving people around. That actually brings us quite nicely onto the next piece, which is as regards Giulia. Giulia and Roxanne were initially paired up due to concerns that the main roster had. Now, these concerns that the main roster had were based on the idea that Giulia didn't necessarily have the ability to walk in straight away and immediately get down to business. That she wasn't in a position to sort of call her matches as and when. She needed a bit of guidance and a bit of support and a bit of concern about a language barrier. Within a couple of weeks, it became very clear that this wasn't necessary, but they'd already prepared for the moment after WrestleMania when Giulia and Roxanne would be a tag team. So they've gone ahead and they've continued with that tag team, even though it was already clear that Giulia wasn't necessarily going to need Roxanne with her. They have now split up. Giulia has moved to SmackDown away from EO Sky, where there's definitely long-term going to be something building. As regards Roxanne, she did get called up after the Royal Rumble. Things didn't quite work out with Bayley because they at that point knew that Becky was coming back. Lot of moving parts on that one. But Roxanne is going to be featured quite heavily going forwards from here. No worries, Declan. I got what you were going for. Juan says, hey, Tom, I don't know if Mariah May will stay, but why is she teasing a potential reunion with Mina Shirakawa? I mean, based on their storyline, she just wants to see her. Sean says, I think Undertaker should have stopped after his Mania 30 loss. It was a consideration. It was a consideration. Appreciate you trying there, Dylan. Bailey says, say his name, the troll appears. And we've got a few things popping up in the chat that I've reported. Marcel says, Tom said Mercedes was going to AEW 3 months before it happened. Sean says, Alexa said she wants to be the first 2-time winner of women's Money in the Bank. Carmella was the first 2-time. She was not. She was not. The first women's Money in the Bank was not won by a woman. Daz, I'll be giving my predictions shortly. Dan says, I think people should leave on their back if leaving the territory, but retirement-wise, do whatever feels right by the audience and performers involved, which I think is a very fair way of doing it. The old, somewhat cynical loser leaves town match is always a good play for it, especially if there's already, shall we say, wrestling reporters saying someone's leaving, and then you can just really enjoy that that's not actually what you're planning. Juan says, Tom also reported Aleister Black would return back in 2022, basically as soon as Triple H started. Backward says, I remember you were the only one reporting Bray Wyatt was returning in 2022, and then what happened, he came back. Well, here we go, somebody does not understand. Tessa says, I remember you report WWE have no interest to sign CM Punk, and you know what happens later? Yeah, I literally broke that down week by week. The week before he returned at Survivor Series, check the thumbnail. You can literally fact check this. The thumbnail says Punk to WWE. Several months beforehand, you can check out my most viewed video. Just go to my videos and go to most popular. It is a video on how CM Punk used wrestling media to create demand for his services and convince WWE to sign him. I use entirely the work of one Nick Hausman, who, if you're a relatively new wrestling fan, you've probably not heard of. Our quality of troll has never been high here, has it? Sean says, do you know if it was going to be Roxanne and Cora coming up as a team, but was it changed due to Cora's release? The intention was for Roxanne and Giulia to come up as a tag team. Thank you, Juan. The other Mike says, I think if the pandemic didn't happen, AJ would have beaten Taker. Quite possibly, though I enjoyed some of that match. Backward says, trolls are like NPCs in video games, they just spawn out of nowhere. Everton thinks we're going to see Giulia in the bank. SNH says, is Solo and Alexa going to win Money in the Bank briefcase? They are the only people announced so far, so it's a bit of a stretch. Aaron says, Tom was 200% accurate on Bray Wyatt news by not just reporting news to get clickbait. I try my best. Declan says, you said Becky would sign with WWE after her contract was up. Yep. Which of course happened. Okay, so the troll has renamed themselves and decided to pretend to agree with itself. Hi, troll. Bye, troll. Noob says, I would like to see Giulia feuding with Charlotte Flair. Maybe Charlotte can put a Joshi wrestler over. Perry says, I thought they said Carmella won Money in the Bank, then given the finish, Backlash decided to restart it on SmackDown. Yeah, it isn't 2 matches. They basically decided the first match didn't happen. Kevin says, I remember that, Tom. A lot of trolls were celebrating because he got that wrong on CM Punk. Again, reported right beforehand on the show, and you can check the thumbnail. Punk to WWE. Then, during the show at Survivor Series, as CM Punk made his appearance, I said, the plan is for CM Punk to go to WrestleMania to main event night 1 for the World Heavyweight Championship against Seth Rollins, which has indeed been confirmed. Now, what many people are referring to here is I did indeed make a short saying, repeat after me, CM Punk will not be at Survivor Series. And I just let it loop. And I really enjoyed the reaction to that. I really did. Because it sent a lot of people to the show in which I said, yeah, Punk's back. You're going to know how to look. Sid says, I didn't immediately see it live as bad last night, but... Was it... What? I'm not sure what you're saying, Sid. Kevin says, can we finally see the female fail the cash-in because it's never happened? I would imagine it's going to happen, yeah. Definitely. Sid says, Drew McIntyre versus Damian Priest inside a steel cage. Saturday night main event is looking like a killer show. Hi, Kelly. Good to see you. Juan says, trolls always questioning. Next thing they'll say you didn't report that WWE wanted money back, but Nick Khan saying no to the money name prevented it. That still holds true today. It does indeed. Sean says, you also reported Sasha wasn't going to be on the SmackDown before SummerSlam in 2021, and Becky confirmed your report. Yep. I got called a liar by a few names there. Oh, wow. The troll says Punk versus Seth wasn't a report, it was common sense. Before CM Punk even entered the arena. And you're saying it was common sense. People started talking about Seth reacting afterwards. Common sense? Really? I told you exactly what was going to happen. Oh, the tears. Backwards says, I think Trolley's upset. Perry says, love to see Rhea win the match only to again lose to Io for a title in a historic fail cash-in. Then this takes you to a heel Rhea. Partners up with Charlotte to create a 2-women power trip. That would be a turn up for the Bucks. Not something I would personally go for. Not something I'd personally go for. Oh, and I've just seen the troll say you don't say anything when you're wrong. You clearly have never been here before. You've clearly never been here before. McKay says there's a Lola Vice potential call-up reel. I've seen it float around. I've got no news on that, unfortunately. As regards Lola Vice, I just have nothing that I can really share. Match card edits are not news, and no, there wasn't. There was fantasy booking. That's all that is. Yeah, the quality of troll, and also, you're not the same person, but the other person immediately stopped talking the second you started. Really? Really? It's McCade says hello from YouTube side. Hello on the YouTube side. Thank you, McCade. 122 people here, 60 likes already. And I think YouTube did warn me that we were going to start getting ads when I didn't want them. So I've not turned ads back on. But if you got an ad after about 30 minutes, after about 40 minutes, please let me know. Because it looks like that's what YouTube has started doing, whether I want them to or not. Great fun. Great fun. Andy says, any idea who could be a third man to join Seth and Braun? Not at this point, but what I would say is that this isn't something that a lot of people agree with. It's just a feel that I've got, a urge, a hunch. That's the word I was actually trying to get out, and I said urge instead. That Sami Zayn might actually cross the divide. Marcel also thinks it would be Sami. Yes, Sid, I'm a fan of Wrestling Days, as are plenty of people here. Sean says, nice call out of Kermit in your video yesterday, Tom. Everyone does forget Kermit is the guy who literally said WWE's been sold to Saudi Arabia. Like, what? Why would you be reporting anything that he says? KJ says, I think Roxy and Rhea win tonight. Parrish picks Jordan Grace to join the Heyman group as a first female. Ooh. Though I still think Becky will be involved. Ooh. KJ says the Saudi report was hilarious. Yeah, and the guy who reported it got a job at Sports Illustrated right afterwards. Dylan says, do you see them having a 6-man tag match of Punk, Sammy and Jay on one side, Seth, Braun and maybe Logan on the other side? I'd imagine that's meant to say Braun. I think it could. I just don't necessarily know if it will. The logically is right there right now. There's no downside to it. It's McCade says, with the AAA partnership, I've seen people report they're signing wrestlers from there. Is it true? No. There's no reason for them to sign wrestlers when the deal will go through and they will automatically acquire every contract within a couple of months. Sean, you can be absolutely exemplary about one person and still get heat for others. Oh, sorry to hear that, Carl. No Wire 6 news today. Nothing in advance of what we had on Friday. But yeah, sorry to hear that, mate. Hopefully you're doing okay. Sometimes, Roy, I do watch the AEW pay-per-views, but I don't cover them. I just watch them for the hell of it. Sometimes I like to be a fan. Kyrie Sane is returning to WWE Raw tonight. However, she will not be returning under the Judgment Day banner, or even if she does, it will be with no real intention. Bayley is no longer working with them. Io Sky is not at this point intending to work with Kyrie Sane, and Asuka, to my knowledge, is not cleared as of yet. The group, Judgment Day, has been quietly wrapped up, so if it does return even now, it will be imploding in very short order. We are more likely to see Kyrie Sane use a Judgment Day... Yes, Sean. Yes. Thank you everyone for correcting me. My notes are wrong. Judgment Day. Damage Control is indeed what I meant. Kyrie Sane will not be using the Damage Control banner beyond potentially the first couple of weeks while they get new Kabuki Warrior gear and graphics designed. Thank you everyone. Can I just say, Kyrie Sane will be great in Judgment Day. When she's a heel, she's got the aesthetic down. But no. Dream come true. Not happening. Damage Control is what I was referring to. But Kyrie Sane returns tonight, and that is great news. Not so great news. And that was a good moment, and I'm going to have to bring the tone down now. During a signing meet and greet, a fan tried to kiss Saraya, formerly known as Paige in WWE. Don't do that. Don't ever do that. That's disgusting behaviour. And it's not something I love to report on, but I feel I have to mention things like that. Just so that everyone knows it happened. And you can all share my bafflement, my disgust, and my ill temper around people who do that shit. Basically. That is a human being. What are you doing? Rickan says, I honestly see Sammy turning on Jay in the future. Fiend says, are there any plans to reunite the Usos as a tag team? Not at this point, no. Carl says, is it just me who really thinks Raw and SmackDown has been bad for some time? I think they've been okay. I think they're missing that one great storyline. Cena's not it. Cena's not it. He could have been. He's not. And says, carrying the Judgment Day would hit though. Roy says, who's your favourite tag team from any wrestling company? Ooh. Interesting. That's a difficult one. I'll have to come back to you on that because there's been some very good tag teams. Martin, welcome. Says, sorry mate, been live. Hope all good and smash those likes. Hope your live went well, I'd imagine. after the weekend, you've got a lot to talk about. Thank you very much for a generous donation, £5. And as you know, Marcel gets it right immediately. £5. This is a thing we do now. We do 5 squats, which is good because so far I've only done 3. And I think we could do better than that. There's 1 and there's 2. I do apologise for the amount of my belly that's on show right now. I'm trying to hide the bald spot as well. There's a lot that I'm doing. But there's 5. Thank you kindly, Martin, for caring so heavily about my old and crinky knees. Crinky? Creaky. Creaky is what I was going for. What's a crink? Like a crinky? I don't understand what I'm saying. Anyway, thank you very much. Oh, true, KJ. Good memory. Sean says, do you see one of the Money in the Bank qualifiers opening Raw? I think there'll still be the 20-minute promo segment, but I think one of the qualifiers will start us off, yes. Backwards says, I'm so effed up. Declan says, it's disgusting. Dylan says, weight that is wrong with people. Marcel says, it's so disgusting. Hope they'll ban him for life. I bloody hope so. Sean says, do you know if Saray's been in contact with WWE about a return? Not that I'm aware of yet. Not directly. But there is a rumour going round that she's speaking to other people to speak to WWE on her behalf. Aaron says, I don't think Street Profits are working since Creative messed with them. I see Fraxim taking the title. We'll see how it goes. I think there's a lot still at play that we could see coming to fruition. Marcel says, 5 squats, let go. And Calvin says, LA Knight is probably going to be in a feud with the Bloodline all summer. Quite possibly. Noom says, I get the feeling that Asuka might turn on Io Sky because that'll be an interesting feud. And Angel Lucia has donated $5 Canadian. Thank you very kindly, Angel. Says, Tom, when do you think we get Randy versus Cody? I think next year's Mania makes the most sense. I agree, and I do think it'll be a little while because Cena's basically taken up the headlines. But Orton versus Cody is very much part of the WWE's long-term plan going forwards. Our next 5 squats. Again, I do apologise for the visibility here. I'm not the most in shape. Again, one of the reasons I'm trying to do the squats. So, 5 more. There's the first. I always do the arm thing as well. I played too much Final Fantasy VII. If you know, you know. Oh, the left knee started to disagree. But that's 5. Let me know if I get my math wrong, by the way. I don't think I should over numbers as big as 5, but let me know just in case. Mine says, can you say meltdown? That's what it's been. A loss and no verts made an unhappy fan base. I can't imagine a world in which we get Florian Wirtz. I just, that's a lot of money. Anyway, I also glad that you're not getting in, to be fair. Roy says, do you get any thumbs down? Yes, I absolutely do. A lot of people hate me because they've been told to. Sean says, getting old sucks. It does. And Billy says, the 5th squat deserves a crowd pop. As long as it's not a knee pop, I'm all right. No Sid, haven't got around to watching that one as of yet. Sean, there is a plan which would involve John Cena and Joe Hendry. It's just about making it happen now. Backwards says, you can never have 2 good knees. You can never have too much of a good thing. Like knees. We're going into our predictions now for Saturday Night Main Event and the predictions for Raw tonight. 120 people here, 64 likes. If you can, please remember to hit that thumbs up. And this will be your last chance if you would like to donate to do so before we wrap up. The current favourites on the betting averages for Saturday Night Main Event would be for John Cena to defeat R-Truth, for Damian Priest to win the cage fight against Drew McIntyre, for Seth Rollins and Bron Breakker to defeat Sami Zayn and CM Punk, and for Jey Uso to go over Logan Paul. Those are the 4 matches announced so far. I expect one more to be announced, but those are the current betting favourites. John Cena, Damian Priest, Seth Rollins and Bron Breakker, Jey Uso. This leaves us with the predictions for today. I'm going to start with my predictions for the Money in the Bank qualifiers. There are 2 qualifiers happening tonight. I expect the win to be Kyrie Sane and Roxanne Perez. While there are big names, including, for example, Becky Lynch in these qualifiers, I do think today's the day Lara Valkyria returns. And for me, a Lara Valkyria versus Becky Lynch match at Money in the Bank is maybe a better option for their next match in the feud. We've also seen that that's actually getting more airtime now than any of the championships on the SmackDown side for the women. So, yeah, awkward. So Kyrie Sane and Roxanne Perez, for me, will be the ones heading to the Money in the Bank. Because I think a Money in the Bank featuring Alexa Bliss, Kyrie Sane, Roxanne Perez, that's very much in Triple H's wheelhouse. I have AJ Styles and Penta triumphing over Balor and JD McDonough. I would imagine there's going to be some miscommunication with Dominic, and JD's going to end up getting pinned. And in a slight break from what you might think would be tradition, I have Jey Uso losing against Bron Breakker. It's a non-title match after all, because of Logan Paul's involvement. They both have spears, but one is so much better than the other. So I think Jey Uso might take the loss here. Oh, nice, Marcel. Always good. It's McKay says, apparently Evolution is happening in July now. Is it true? I don't believe anything unless you say it. I've never heard anything about Evolution. That's not to say it's not going to happen. There's no guarantee. But I've never heard anything about Evolution. KJ says, as far as getting things wrong, I think everyone who reports wrestling news has gotten something. I've watched Tom for years and I've seen right and wrong, but I won't test him down about it. He says he's wrong too. I am at times. Everyone is. I said it at the beginning of the video yesterday. Cage side seats use only what they consider to be their most trusted sources. Even doing that, they have proven that their information is only accurate 52.8% of the time. Okay? That's only just over half. Which means that of the most trusted sources, nearly half of what they report is wrong. It needs bearing in mind when you look at my record. And yes, I do occasionally get things wrong. I'm not ashamed to say that. I'm not ashamed to say that every now and then I've had to say, yeah, guys, I was wrong. I'm sorry. It does happen. My concern is not about getting it wrong. My concern is about people who refuse to believe they are wrong, even when they've categorically been proven so. I appreciate you, KJ. Sid says, are you looking forward to Nigel McGuinness wrestling against FTR? Not typically an area that I focus on. Calvin has Kyrie, Roxanne and Becky. Roxanne and Becky can't both qualify. Ah, yes. Thank you. Christopher says Roxanne Perez and Rhea Ripley are his picks. Sean says, remember the betting odds can be wrong. Becky was a favourite at Backlash and lost. Very true, which is why I just say these are the betting odds favourites. I remember a time quite a while ago now. I think it was Chris Jericho's second to last match in WWE. It was at a Backlash and it was a US title match. And everyone and their dog had Kevin Owens winning. And I predicted on PWTorch that it would be Chris Jericho. I just felt like that was it. And everyone was telling me I was so wrong. Everyone was telling me it was ridiculous. I had no reason to believe it. I just believed it. And as it was Chris Jericho in the end who picked up the win. Why? Because they were swapping the sides. They were swapping the championship to the other side. And they decided last minute. Very strange. Very strange. Dylan says, if The Rock is involved, Hunter isn't in charge of creative. But if he isn't involved, Hunter is 100% in charge of creative because he said that the other day. Yeah, pretty much. Sid thinks Goldberg has the best spear. Dylan says, what do you think Seth's faction should be called? I think it should be called Revolution. We'll see. We'll see. He doesn't tend to name his factions. Very strange. Calvin says, I feel like Rhea doesn't need Money in the Bank to get a shot at the title. I think she'll get her shot regardless. And Sid says, would you like to see the Big Show wrestle again? No, I think there are better options. And I think even the Big Show himself recognises that his time at wrestling has come to an end. Aaron says, Sportskeeda attacked me, yet they're just full of clickbait headlines. Sportskeeda attacked me? I found that unlikely because I used to work for Sportskeeda. We left on good terms. They've never said anything bad about me. Anything. So I'll need to look that up, Aaron. Very confused by what you said there. Ooh, Embrace the Vision. Good name. That's our show, guys. We've been live for just over an hour. We've reported on a hell of a lot of news. And we're going to wrap it up there. I believe we peaked at 122 people, not bad at all. 70 likes, which gives us a good chance of reaching that 100 in people watching after the fact. We're usually about double our viewership. So huge thank you. I've been Tom Colohue. You've been fantastic. And I'll see you all on Friday.